I would say you really just have to start. I know it can be like daunting and scary to put yourself out there, especially as a nutrition student, but as you start doing it more and more, you get more confident. You can't get that confidence until you do it.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2BE podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
All right, welcome back to another week of the RD2BE podcast. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes. This is our weekly podcast where we sit down with a different registered dietitian to showcase the diversity of opportunity in the profession. And this week, we're actually really excited to be highlighting a distance dietetic internship. So we're sitting down with Tobritzhofer today with Be Well Solutions Dietetic Internship. She's the marketing manager and faculty advisor. So excited to have you here. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As you mentioned, I'm the marketing manager and a faculty advisor for Be Well Solutions Dietetic Internship, and I'm really excited to share more about our program and distance internships overall.
Awesome. And I'm Jenna, your RD2BE. And so, Bree, could you give us a little background first into your dietetics career, like why you became a dietitian, where you went to school, and what you do now specifically with Be Well Solutions?
Yeah, of course. So I became a dietitian because I actually had to see a dietitian when I was younger, just for some minor health issues that I was having. And I kind of always had a interest in nutrition kind of in the back of my mind, but I didn't really know how to pursue that path until after I started college. So I started college as a psychology major, thinking that was what I wanted to go into, and then learned that wasn't for me. And I went to UW Stout for my undergrad. And so after I figured out I did not want to pursue psychology, I was kind of just looking through the different majors that Stout had available. And I found out that they had a fantastic dietetics program. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue that, went to my first nutrition class, and the rest was history. I just fell in love with the field, was super excited about the potential to just help people improve their health. And yeah, so that was why I became an RD. And I already mentioned that I went to UW Stout for my undergrad. I went to Mount Mary University for my dietetic internship and for my master's degree. And Mount Mary is a small school located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as far as what I do now, so I am the marketing manager and faculty advisor for Be Well. And it's a kind of hybrid role. So in the marketing manager role, I am managing all aspects of our marketing efforts, which includes our social media accounts. We actually have 5 social media accounts that I put together content for. I manage our alumni network, our outreach efforts, and all kinds of things in that realm. And then in the faculty advisor role, I support and mentor interns throughout our program. So help them with their rotation schedules, answer questions that they have about rotations and assignments, grade assignments, lead meetings with them, and things like that. So I've been with Be Well for about a year. Prior to working for Be Well, I have dabbled in a few different areas of dietetics. I was in corporate wellness for a little while, worked for a little bit in clinical, and I worked for a nonprofit in Minneapolis for about 5 years before I transitioned into my role with Be Well. So that's it.
Awesome. And it sounds like you kind of do a little bit of everything with Be Well, where you kind of get to interact with students, but you also get to work behind the scenes with content creating for Be Well Solutions. And so what made you decide, because you said that you did a couple things in the past with dietetics, what made you decide to join Be Well Solutions? And did you notice anything stand out with BWS, with it being a distance dietetic internship?
Yeah, so I decided to join Be Well for a couple of different reasons. I didn't mention this in my introduction, but I also have a freelance business where I provide like freelance writing, communications, and marketing services. And I got connected with Be Well through that back in January of 2021. They were looking for somebody to manage their social media accounts just on like a freelance basis. And so I started doing that, and then they decided that they wanted to like expand that role into more of a like marketing manager position, like what I am in now. And in addition to that, they wanted to bring on another faculty advisor. And just after having the chance to get to know the program director and the other staff at Be Well, I was just super excited to come on board with them. I was just drawn and inspired by just like the passion and the dedication that the staff have at Be Well, and just being dedicated to the success of their interns. And I knew that it was something that I wanted to pursue. I was just also interested in, I had never worked like directly in marketing or communications. That was something that I was already always doing on the side. And I wanted to explore what it could look like to do something like that full time. So that's what made me decide to join Be Well. And then there was the next question was what made Be Well stand out? Is that?
Yeah, like, so with your experience in Be Well Solutions, like, because I'm sure even when you were in RD2BE, you heard a little bit about distance dietetic internships, but once you were able to actually work and immerse yourself in what a distance DI is, did there anything stand out with BWS compared to any other DIs in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few different things. The number one thing that stands out with Be Well is just the fact that we really value community. I think one misconception about distance programs is that they can be lonely and isolating, but it is our goal to make sure that our interns never feel alone while they're going through our program. And we incorporate that community into our program in a few different ways. The number one way is through once a month, our interns attend meetings with their virtual meetings with their faculty advisor, and they actually have a faculty advisor group, which is a group of like 4 or 5 other interns in their cohort. And during that meeting, they have the chance to just really connect with those other individuals and share updates about how their rotations are going, share challenges and successes. And then that's also a touch point for them to ask questions of their faculty advisor and just really be able to have get that one-on-one support from them. I think that's just, those meetings are so important. And a couple of other ways that we instill community are just through I've already mentioned the faculty advisor position a couple of times, but just having that person, like not only do we have those meetings once a month, our interns can reach out to their faculty advisors at any point throughout the program to ask any questions that they have, or just help with troubleshooting anything that is coming up during the rotations and things like that. And not only do we prioritize community like during the internship, we also prioritize it after the internship. We have a really strong alumni network where we try our best to keep them connected and informed by sharing like job opportunities, sending them newsletters, spotlighting them on social media, hosting events with them, and so on. And then a couple of other things that I feel make Be Well Solutions stand out are, I've already mentioned this, but just our faculty, our team is just so passionate about the field and so dedicated to the success of our interns. So I think that just really, really stands out. And then we also have a wellness concentration. And this is one that you don't really see a lot in dietetic internships. I think it's a concentration that there are a few other like distance programs out there that have this as a concentration, but it's just like an up and coming area of dietetics that more and more dietitians are seeking out and getting hired for, and that more and more companies are, looking for dietitians to hire for that too. So our interns, they go through that wellness rotation where they learn the ins and outs of managing like employee or corporate wellness programs, and then they do different assignments and activities throughout the internship too that just give them more hands-on experience with corporate wellness. So yeah, those are a few things that I think make us stand out.
And that sounds like a really good kind of fulfilling experience that the dietetic interns have with your internship, like not only support from faculty members, but also the unique concentration. And you mentioned that a common misconception was how interns can feel isolated, or like a distance interns feel like they're out on their own pretty much, like they're just a fish off a hook trying to figure out preceptors, rotation sites. They kind of just have a lot of pressure on themselves to figure out their internship. But what are some ways, and you did mention with like the one-on-one meetings and the group meetings that your interns have together, but what are some other ways that BWS makes it fulfilling for interns regardless of it being distant? Like, how do you provide that support that some interns might feel like they could lack with a distance internship?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. And, my response to this is fairly similar to the response that I had to kind of what makes Be Well stand out. But I will say, I've already talked about the amount of support that we provide interns with, but we are able to like tailor that amount of support and communication based on the intern's needs. So if there's an intern who wants to have a meeting with us once a week to talk about their rotations, or even once a day, I mean, whatever they need, we are able to provide that. If they want to talk about, anything that's going on during their rotations, if they just want to reflect on what they learned during their rotations, we're happy to talk with them about that as well. Another thing that we do to make it as fulfilling as possible is we do have at least one chance for the interns to come together in person during the program. Of course, this has looked different during the pandemic, but we do have an orientation and an exit class that are meant to be in person in Ohio, and that is just the chance for them to have those face-to-face connections with their fellow interns and just establish rapport with their peers and their faculty too, just to make them feel more comfortable with reaching out if they need to. And another thing, a lot of times with distance programs, like you said, Jenna, they do require that they find their preceptors and make their own rotation schedule. And while we do ask that interns submit their rotation schedule upon application, we know that it's not always possible to have all of their rotations confirmed at the time of applying. So once they're accepted to our program, we will provide them with support with securing any rotations that they're still trying to find. So we don't just like leave them in the dark if they're struggling to finalize that. So that's that's another way. And then we really, this is one like big perk of distance programs, but we encourage our interns to just like tailor their rotation schedule according to their interests. I think that's another way that we make it as fulfilling as possible, and just try to emphasize the fact that like you can pick where you do your rotations, and that's amazing. Like you don't always get that opportunity in other more like traditional dietetic internships, and so it just gives them the option to get experience in areas where they are particularly interested in. And then lastly, within the like overall costs of our program, we do provide interns with RD exam resources, and then throughout the year we'll bring in like guest speakers on a variety of different topics to just help them learn even more about some of those really niche areas of dietetics. And then they also get professional development opportunities throughout the program too. So
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff that BWS does
yeah,
for their
sorry,
long-winded
answer.
No, but that's great, because definitely with distance internships, just in general, I think you really twisted kind of what a lot of interns worry about with distance internships is, oh, I have to be the one to pick the internship sites. But then what you guys do, and what I feel like in distance internships try to promote, is it's not that you have to, you get to, like you get to choose where you want to go. And while of course it's a little bit more work on your end, you have the support from the distance internships, and you do have support from other people to help you pick the right preceptor rotations. And even if your current rotation sites that you apply for don't work, the distance internship can still help you figure out other possible ways to fit it in, because especially if it's a distance internship that only does distance internships, they know how to work with a lot of different interns with different, like meeting your needs and just kind of being flexible, because that's what distance internships are all about. That's how they promote like and make it great and like attract interns too, is because of that flexibility and because you get to control your schedule. And so like you offer the resources even with the internship, like throughout it, before the RD exam. And so even all the way to diecast, like that application, because you guys do participate in the second round of matching. And I do feel like a lot of RD2Bs don't really, I feel like if they do apply to their, internships and they don't get accepted, they kind of think, oh, that's it, like boom, game over. I just have to apply the next time. But for those who aren't really familiar with second round matching or what it exactly means, could you go in depth about what that curtails to RD2Bs who applied through diecast, and if they didn't get accepted into their first match, like what second match means possibly for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So second round match is essentially for individuals who did not match during the first DICAS round. And what happens is internship programs, if they did not fill all of their available spots, they will participate in second round match to help fill those spots. So they'll announce that they're participating in second round, and then students have the chance to apply to them again, just through the DICAS platform. Specifically with Be Well, we do have, it's called an intent to apply form that we encourage people to fill out before applying to us through second round match, because of course there is an additional fee to apply through DICAS through second round. So this form allows us to kind of review their information before applying to us through DICAS. So if like we decide that they're not a good fit, then we can let them know right away so that they don't have to pay that extra fee. So once after they apply through second round in DICAS, then we will essentially just reach out to them to schedule an interview and then offer them a spot if we find out that they're a good fit. And it's like a rolling basis for second round. I don't know if it's like that for other programs too, but that's kind of how it works for us. So once we've been able to fill all of the spots that we have available, then we'll kind of, stop screening. So that's what it looks like for us.
And I think that's a really good thing to kind of promote with not just any individual distance internship or in like just internships in general. Like if you don't make it with your first match, that's okay, because not every nutrition student that applies for DICAS will get their first match. And it's just, I know, especially with me as a nutrition student, we're very type A, organized, very just like not perfectionist, but kind of perfectionist, where we just want like plan everything out, plan for everything to be a certain way. But then if something, especially something as big as getting our internship rotation decided, if that doesn't go the way that we plan, that throws, that could be an entire year thrown off. But having the awareness of second round match, that's literally a second chance. It's not just a second round, it's a second chance. And with those internships slots, like you mentioned, that you need spots to fill, if you apply for second round match, you're going to have the internships that are in the second round match, they're going to be wanting, they need the interns to fill in those slots. And so it's just like, even if you don't make your first rotation choice for your internship, there's literally a second chance for everything. And it's really great that BWS offers that. And also when it comes to just resources in general about figuring out what internship participate in second round match, is it are all the dietetic internships that participate in second round match, is it found on DICAS, or are some of them do you only know about it by going to their specific website?
Yeah, that is a good question. I believe that they are found on DICAS. I honestly could be wrong about that. This was my first year learning all about the second round match process, so I'm not like 100% sure on that. But I do know that the programs will always post it on their website, on their social media, so that interns can access it. And then they're often in close communication with like DPD programs, so they'll like send emails out to DPD programs to just like let them know that they're participating in second round match. So that's kind of how the word gets spread. But yeah, I believe it is in DICAS.
Okay, yeah, cool. Because I definitely know with the DICAS, like I haven't applied for dietetic internships yet, but I know from hearing from friends and people who have applied, I feel like they just kind of see their result and then they just kind of move on. Either they're super happy or they're just super down because they either got their rotation site that they wanted or not. But so from what I've heard with second round match is just to keep up to date. Like if you don't get your first match, that's okay. Just keep up to date with DICAS, or even like reaching out to your DPD director, because I'm sure the DPD director knows what dietetic internships participate in second round match. And so I think that's just another example of distance internships and just internships in general being flexible and willing to work with nutrition students. And so with BWS being a distance internship, you guys are very familiar with navigating all the ins and outs of what can make a distance internship hard or make a distance internship more intimidating or difficult to, what seems difficult to navigate with an intern. But when it comes to, if a dietetic student wants to go into a distance program, whether it's BWS or any distance program in general, what are some signs that a student should pursue a distance internship? Like, what are some signs that a nutrition student should be like, oh, a distance program is right for me, rather than just an on-site where they go and they tell them where to go?
Yeah, that's another good question. And it's really gonna depend on the individual and their specific situation. It's hard to say like, this is exactly when you would want to pursue a distance program versus a traditional dietetic internship. But, distance programs are a fantastic option for people who have a specific area of the country where they want to stay. Because a lot of times, if they're applying to other traditional internships, they might have but that might not be feasible for people who have other obligations. Maybe they have family, they have kids, they have other things that just prevent them from being able to move somewhere else. So I think that's one sign that a distance program would be right for somebody. I think in some instances, distance programs can be a cost savings just because of that, once again, not having to move and find somewhere else to live. Lots of other reasons why there could be a cost savings with that. And I think if there's an intern who just really, we've talked about this a couple of times, but who is really interested in just tailoring their experience to their interests. And if they have, maybe they have lots of connections in the dietetics field already, that would probably be a sign that maybe a distance program is right for them too, if they want to, take the lead in their schedule. So yeah, so those are a few things that come to mind for that.
For sure. And I think definitely with the 2024 changes with needing a master's degree, that financial component is, becoming a registered dietitian was already expensive in of itself, but adding that master's degree, definitely, I think it's going to make a lot of nutrition students' heads start turning about thinking and considering distance internships, just because of the opportunity, the flexibility, and the cost effectiveness of distance internships. And so with I lost my train of thought. It's okay, we can cut it out. There we go. Okay. What is something you wish you knew as a student before entering your dietetic internship that can be applied to a current RD2BE, whether they're applying for a distance internship or applying to any internship?
Yeah, so a couple of different things come to mind for this. So I would say like the number one thing that I wish that I knew before my dietetic internship is just like this vast opportunities that there are for registered dietitians. Our skills are multifaceted and can be applied to so many different jobs in so many different areas. And so if you don't want to work in clinical or community or food service, those are kind of like the three pillars that we hear about a lot when we're in nutrition school, that's okay. And you'll find an area that you like, and even if there's jobs out there that you can get that aren't like dietitian jobs per se, but are still a wonderful way to utilize your skills and can just like open up so many new opportunities. And that's something that I've had to come to terms with myself, like being in a marketing position now. That's not something that I never thought that I would be in a marketing manager job when I was a nutrition student, but here we are. So and just like that your interests and your passions will change throughout your career. You might start out and think that you're in your dream job and you're going to stay there forever, but then a few years later you decide that's not your dream anymore and you want to pursue something else, and that's okay. As type A perfectionists, I think that's something that can be challenging for us dietitians to navigate, because we just like think that we have this like perfect path laid out, but then it doesn't always go that way. So
for sure. And I do think definitely with nutrition students, it's great to kind of break out of the shell and kind of just see what the dietetic profession has to offer. Because like, for example, I'm sure when, say you're at like a party or something, people ask, oh, what you do? Like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm a registered dietitian, but also a marketing manager. It's crazy how those two things can mesh together. And that's really just like a great example of literally you can do anything with that RD credential. Like the sky is really the limit and you can apply yourself anywhere. And I think cycling back to how you got your marketing position, it was through like putting yourself out there pretty much. Just kind of BWS saw you with like your marketing and what you were doing. And so when it comes to nutrition students, and this can also be applied to distance programs, figuring out where your rotation sites can be, finding the preceptors, you have to make those connections, you have to network, figure out where you would want to go for, those 6 to 8 weeks or however long that rotation is. And so do you have any advice for current nutrition students on how they can possibly like get the confidence to put themselves out there, or how to actually put themselves out there so that they can maybe set themselves up for possible job opportunities or internship sites if they're going into distance or things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would say you really just have to start. I know it can be like daunting and scary to put yourself out there, especially as a nutrition student, but as you start doing it more and more, you get more confident. You can't get that confidence until you do it, and you kind of just have to fake it till you make it, so to speak, if it's something that makes you nervous. And we always say with interns who are nervous about reaching out to potential preceptors for a distance program or something like that, we try to have them shift their perspective a little bit and think about like how many different opportunities and different connections that they're going to have after putting themselves out there and seeking out those opportunities, even if they're told no, or a potential preceptor declines taking them for a rotation, that's still like a new connection that you have who could potentially, connect you with a different person or offer you a job in the future or something like that. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think a really good takeaway from that is, even if something that you reached out to didn't turn out the way that you were, again, with us type A's wanting everything planned out, if it doesn't turn out the way that you planned it to be, it can still be a stepping stone in the right direction, or shift course a little bit to get you to an even better place that you hadn't planned before. And I think just breaking out of the got to plan everything, have that 5-year plan. I mean, I'm a victim to already having a 10-year plan pretty much with my career and everything. But even with just talking to the people that I've spoken to, making those connections and kind of putting myself out there, that alone kind of breaks the shell of that 5-10-year plan. Because like hearing the different stories from other people, or just hearing other registered dietitians' experiences, and even just talking in this interview, you open your mind up to all the possibilities. And then of course it's great to have plans, of course it's great to have those ambitions and things to work towards, but also simultaneously that flexibility. And I think distance programs, especially ones like BWS, they're the perfect example and the perfect representation of having that flexibility, but also the perfect level of planning. Because you have to plan for your rotation sites. You can't just walk into any hospital and be like, I'm going to start next Monday. And then, because you do have to have that structure. And I'm sure BWS and other distance programs have that structure for making sure that you can be flexible at the same time. And so thank you so much for coming here with us, talking about BWS and distance programs in general, because I know for nutrition students and with all the planning aspect of it, it can be really daunting. But I think a really great takeaway with what you've mentioned is BWS and other distance programs, they're there for support. Their entire job is to support the interns, no matter how far away they are. And also just having those opportunities to come together and connect and know that you're not alone. And you really brought on great insights about not only what BWS offers with the concentrations, how you support students, but also distance programs in general, and with a second match, and just knowing that even if your first opportunity doesn't work out, there's always opportunity in the dietetics profession. So thank you so much, Bree. And yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.